The unexpected guardian. Commander Nolan Reeves winced as a fresh wave of pain radiated from his temple. The medical drone hovered nearby, chirping disapprovingly as he struggled to sit upright in the cramped recovery bay of Vantis Station's only clinic. Patient advised to remain horizontal, the drone intoned. Patient doesn't care, Nolan muttered, swinging his legs over the edge of the bed. His transport vessel had been attacked 3 days ago, forcing him to make an emergency landing on this forsaken outpost. His final mission complete, all he'd wanted was a quiet journey back to Earth. Now he was stuck on the galaxy's most notorious trading hub, a place where laws were suggestions and everything, and everyone, had a price. The clinic door slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Nolan tensed, military instincts kicking in despite his injuries. A tall, insectoid figure ducked through the entrance, compound eyes glittering in the harsh lighting. Commander Reeves, the Creakian's translator module rendered his clicking mandibles into smooth basic. I am Torvik. I represent Baroness Vex. Nolan frowned. Baroness Vex was Vantis Station's de facto ruler, controlling everything from security to smuggling operations. What does the Baroness want with me? Your emergency landing prevented a catastrophic collision with her personal yacht, Torvik explained. She acknowledges the debt and wishes to express her gratitude. Tell her no thanks necessary. Just point me to the nearest Alliance outpost and we're even. Torvik's antennae twitched in what might have been amusement. The Baroness does not offer gratitude lightly. She insists upon delivering her gift in person. Before Nolan could protest further, Torvik stepped aside, revealing a slender figure waiting in the corridor. A female humanoid entered the room, her movements graceful and measured. Nolan's breath caught in his throat. Her skin was a pale blue, adorned with intricate silver markings that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. Long hair the color of midnight cascaded down her back, framing delicate features and eyes of deep violet. She wore a simple white shift that did little to conceal her lithe form. Most disturbing was the thin metallic collar encircling her throat, pulsing with a soft green light. This is Talia, Torvik announced. A pure-blooded Azurian, exceptionally rare since their homeworld's destruction. The Baroness gifts her to you as a gesture of gratitude. Nolan's shock gave way to disgust. I don't accept people as gifts. The Azurian, Talia, kept her gaze fixed on the floor, but Nolan caught the slight widening of her eyes. Torvik clicked disapprovingly. Refusing the Baroness's generosity would cause grave offense. Additionally, this specimen was scheduled for termination due to complications. The Baroness merely repurposed her. Nolan's jaw tightened. Leave us. After Torvik departed, Nolan cautiously approached Talia. Look at me, please. Slowly, she raised her head. Her violet eyes met his, revealing intelligence and wariness in equal measure. I don't own people, Nolan said gently. Where I come from, slavery is illegal. I am aware of Earth Alliance laws, Talia replied, her voice melodic yet restrained. However, we are not in Alliance space, Commander. Call me Nolan. And you're free to go. I'll have that collar removed immediately. Alarm flashed across her features. Please don't. If you reject the Baroness's gift, protocol demands my termination. Termination? You mean execution? Nolan ran a hand through his short brown hair, frustration mounting. This is insane. It is simply how things operate on Vantis. Her composure was remarkable given the circumstances. My fate is sealed either way. At least with you, I might survive. Nolan paced the small room, mind racing. He couldn't leave her to die, but neither could he participate in this barbaric system. Okay. For now, you stay with me. But not as property, as a companion. Understood? A flicker of something, relief. Hope, crossed her face. As you wish. The medical drone chimed, indicating Nolan's discharge was complete. He gathered his few remaining possessions, his military uniform replaced by civilian clothing provided by the clinic. As they left, he noticed how Talia positioned herself precisely 2 steps behind him. "We walk side by side," he murmured. After a moment's hesitation, she adjusted her position. The corridors of Vantis Station were a chaotic blend of species and commerce. Vendors hawked exotic wares while shadowy figures conducted less reputable business in dimly lit alcoves. Nolan directed them toward temporary quarters he'd secured near the docking bays. "Why were you scheduled for termination?" he asked quietly as they navigated the crowded passageways. Talia's gaze darted around, ensuring no one was listening. "I am Kr Shera, a genetic lineage believed extinct. My blood contains compounds of significant value to certain interests." "Valuable how?" "The Kr Shera were engineered as biological vessels. Our genetic makeup can be manipulated to create targeted biological agents." "You're a walking bioweapon," Nolan concluded, comprehension dawning. "Potentially. Though I would never willingly allow such use." Her voice hardened. "Many of my kind were harvested during the Azurian genocide. Those who survived are hunted. The Baroness acquired me from traders but discovered I was too difficult to control." They reached Nolan's quarters, a Spartan room with basic amenities. As the door sealed behind them, he activated the privacy field, a precaution that had become second nature during his years in military intelligence. "So the Baroness dumps her problem on me, disguised as a gift." Nolan shook his head. "Convenient. I apologize for complicating your situation." Talia stood awkwardly in the center of the room. "What do you require of me?" "Nothing. Just, be yourself." Confusion creased her brow. "Myself? I'm not sure I remember who that is anymore." The simple honesty of her statement struck Nolan like a physical blow. How long had she been treated as property, her identity systematically erased? "We'll figure it out together," he promised. "First, let's get that collar off." "It's biometrically locked to the Baroness," Talia explained, fingers tracing the metallic band. "Removing it without proper authorization would trigger a neurotoxin." Nolan cursed under his breath. "Then we need to get proper authorization or find someone who can bypass it safely." His data tablet chimed with an incoming transmission. The Baroness herself appeared on screen, her reptilian features arranged in what passed for a smile among her species. "Commander Reeves," she hissed. "I trust my gift meets your approval." Nolan forced a neutral expression. "Your generosity is unexpected, Baroness. The Azurian is rare. Treat her well." Her forked tongue flicked out briefly. "I should mention, a collector arrives tomorrow with particular interest in Kr Shera specimens. He offered a substantial sum, but I honored our debt to you instead." The veiled threat was clear: reject the gift, and Talia would be sold to this collector. "I appreciate your consideration." After the transmission ended, Nolan turned to Talia. "We need to leave Vantis. Tonight." She nodded, violet eyes serious. "The collector is likely Drax Morrow. He harvests Kr Shera for genetic material." "Can you fight?" Nolan asked, assessing her slender frame. In response, the silver markings on Talia's skin began to glow. She moved with sudden, fluid grace, executing a series of movements that spoke of extensive combat training. When she finished, she wasn't even breathing hard. "The Kr Shera were not merely vessels," she explained. "We were also protectors." "Impressive." Nolan's estimation of her rose further. "I need to secure passage off-station. Alliance territory is our best bet, you could claim refugee status there." "They would separate us for questioning," Talia said quietly. "And the collar. One problem at a time." Nolan activated his tablet, scanning for outbound vessels. "There's a transport leaving for Rigel Station at 0400. It's not Alliance territory, but it's a step in the right direction." As they prepared for their escape, gathering what few supplies they could, Nolan found himself watching Talia. Despite everything she'd endured, she carried herself with dignity and purpose. The more time they spent together, the more he sensed something unusual, a connection that transcended their brief acquaintance. "You're staring," she observed, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Sorry. It's just, I feel like I know you somehow." Nolan shook his head, embarrassed by the admission. Talia's expression softened. "Among my people, it's believed that souls recognize each other across lifetimes. The Kairshera especially are attuned to compatible energies." "Is that what this is? Some kind of psychic connection?" "Not exactly. More like, recognition." She hesitated, then placed her palm against his chest. "Your heart beats in rhythm with mine. I can sense your emotions, your determination, your concern." The touch sent warmth spreading through Nolan's body. He covered her hand with his own. "I feel it too." Their moment of connection was interrupted by the blaring of station alarms. A mechanical voice announced, "Security breach in Sector 7. All personnel on alert." Talia's eyes widened. "They're searching for us. Time to go." Nolan grabbed their meager supplies. "Stay close." They slipped into the corridor, keeping to the shadows. The station's night cycle had begun, reducing traffic, but security drones patrolled with increasing frequency. As they approached the transport bay, a hulking figure stepped into their path, one of the Baroness's personal guards. "The commander and his property are required to return to their quarters," the guard rumbled, weapon already drawn. Nolan moved first, military training kicking in as he ducked beneath the guard's aim. But it was Talia who struck, her silver markings blazing as she executed a spinning kick that connected with devastating precision. The guard crumpled without a sound. "We need to hurry," she urged, already moving toward the docking bay. "They'll have others searching." They sprinted the final distance, reaching the transport vessel just as it was preparing for departure. Credits exchanged hands, and the captain, a grizzled human with no interest in their circumstances beyond their ability to pay, granted them passage. As the transport disengaged from Vantis Station, Nolan and Talia huddled in the cramped cargo hold, surrounded by crates of synthetic textiles. Through a small viewport, they watched the station recede into the void. "What happens now?" Talia asked, her shoulder pressed against his in the confined space. Nolan found her hand in the darkness, intertwining his fingers with hers. Her skin was cool to the touch, but the connection between them burned warm and steady. "Now we find a way to remove that collar, get you to Alliance space, and figure out what comes next, together." For the first time since they'd met, Talia smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her features from beautiful to breathtaking. Together, she agreed, the word both a promise and a beginning. Beyond the stars. The cargo hold of the transport vessel, Nomad's Fortune, smelled of synthetic textiles and engine coolant. Nolan shifted position, trying to find a more comfortable spot against the metal bulkhead. Beside him, Talia slept fitfully, her silvery markings pulsing with a soft glow that seemed to intensify with her dreams. 3 days had passed since their escape from Vantis Station. Captain Javier, the vessel's commander, had asked minimal questions beyond confirming their payment. The aging freighter was making steady progress toward Rigel Station, where they hoped to find passage to Alliance territory. Talia stirred, her violet eyes fluttering open. "You should rest," she murmured, noticing his vigilant posture. "Old habits," Nolan replied with a tired smile. 15 years in the Terran Defense Force had left him incapable of fully relaxing in unfamiliar surroundings. The collar around Talia's throat caught the dim light, its green indicator pulsing steadily. They'd examined it thoroughly, but the biometric lock remained impenetrable. Without the Baroness's authorization or specialized equipment, removing it risked triggering the neurotoxin. "I've been thinking," Talia said, sitting up. "There might be someone on Rigel who could help with this." She tapped the collar lightly. "An Azurian expatriate named Varix. If anyone understands our technology, it would be him. Nolan nodded. It's worth a try. But we'll need to be careful. Word travels fast in these sectors. The intercom crackled to life. All passengers, prepare for security inspection upon approach to Rigel Station. Arrival in 6 hours. Captain Javier's voice sounded strained. They exchanged concerned glances. Rigel rarely conducted pre-arrival inspections. Something's wrong, Nolan whispered, military instincts on high alert. The cargo hold door slid open without warning. Captain Javier stood in the doorway, a pulse pistol trained on them. Behind him loomed 2 mercenaries in unmarked combat gear. I'm sorry, Javier said, though his eyes showed more calculation than remorse. The bounty on the Azurian is too high to ignore. Drax Moro pays well for K'Arshera specimens. Nolan shifted subtly, positioning himself between Talia and the weapons. How much? He asked, playing for time. 2 million credits, Javier replied. Enough to retire on a core world. I'll double it, Nolan bluffed. The captain laughed. With what? Your military pension. Talia's hand found Nolan's, squeezing once, a signal. Her markings had begun to glow more intensely, but she kept her head bowed, appearing submissive. The K'Arshera are more valuable intact, she said softly. Permit me to demonstrate why. Before anyone could react, Talia's markings flared with blinding intensity. The mercenaries staggered back, temporarily blinded. Nolan seized the opportunity, lunging forward to disarm Javier with a precision strike to the wrist. The pulse pistol clattered to the deck. What followed was a blur of coordinated violence. Nolan and Talia moved in perfect synchrony, as if they'd trained together for years rather than days. Her K'Arshera combat abilities complemented his military tactics, creating a formidable partnership that overwhelmed their opponents. Minutes later, Javier and his mercenaries lay unconscious, bound with cargo restraints. Nolan secured the pulse pistol, checking its charge. We need to take control of the ship, he said, breathing heavily from the exertion. Talia nodded, but her usually vibrant blue skin had paled to a worrying ashen hue. The brilliant glow of her markings had dimmed significantly. Are you hurt? Nolan asked, alarmed. She shook her head. Using my abilities drains me. I'll recover. Despite her reassurance, she leaned heavily against him as they made their way to the bridge. The remaining crew, a navigator and engineer, surrendered without resistance upon seeing their captain defeated. Neither appeared particularly loyal to Javier or his scheme. Set course for the Callisto waypoint, Nolan ordered after securing the bridge. We'll plot our next move from there. As the Nomad's fortune altered course, Nolan helped Talia to the captain's quarters. She collapsed onto the bunk, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. You need to eat, he said, rummaging through the captain's supplies until he found nutrient packets. This will help restore your energy. While Talia ate, Nolan accessed the ship's communications array. The news was grim. Drax Moro had broadcast their description across 3 sectors, offering substantial rewards for information. Images of both Nolan and Talia rotated on the emergency bulletin channel. We're famous, he said grimly, showing her the display. Talia studied the bounty notice. They've identified you as my possessor. According to Fringe World law, anyone capturing you can legally claim ownership of me. Her voice remained steady, but Nolan saw the flash of fear in her eyes. That's not going to happen, he promised, sitting beside her on the bunk. In the quiet of the captain's quarters, with immediate danger temporarily averted, the connection between them seemed to intensify. Talia's violet eyes held his, filled with emotions too complex for words. The bond between us, she said softly. It grows stronger. Nolan nodded, feeling it too, a resonance that transcended physical attraction. Is this normal for your people? The K'Arshera were designed to form deep connections with compatible individuals. It enhances our protective capabilities. Her fingers traced the line of his jaw. But this feels different. More profound than the bonds described in our histories. Their lips met in a kiss that felt inevitable, as natural as gravity. Talia's skin warmed beneath his touch, her markings beginning to glow with a gentle luminescence that bathed them both in silvery light. For precious hours, they forgot about their pursuers, about the collar still encircling Talia's throat, about the uncertain future awaiting them. There was only the deepening connection between them, a bond that felt both ancient and newly discovered. Morning cycle found them planning their next move. The Callisto waypoint, a refueling station on the border between Fringe space and Alliance territory, was 12 hours away. Once we reach Callisto, we can transmit a request for asylum, Nolan explained, studying the star charts. Alliance patrol vessels routinely monitor that sector. Talia examined the ship's inventory manifest. The cargo hold contains medical supplies destined for Helios colony. We could use those as leverage for Alliance cooperation. Nolan grinned. Clever. Humanitarian aid always gets priority response. Their planning was interrupted by the proximity alarm. The navigator's voice came through the intercom, "Commander, we have 3 vessels approaching. Configuration matches known bounty hunter signatures." On the view screen, 3 predatory-looking ships moved into intercept formation. Sleek and heavily armed, they were designed for pursuit and capture. "They must have tracked us from Rigel's beacon network," Nolan muttered, sliding into the captain's chair. "Evasive maneuvers, maximum thrust." The Nomad's fortune shuddered as its engines strained to outrun the pursuers. But the freighter, designed for cargo hauling rather than speed, steadily lost ground. "We can't outrun them," Talia observed calmly. Nolan checked the weapons systems, basic defensive capabilities, nothing that would deter dedicated hunters. "We might reach the Alliance patrol route if we push the engines beyond safety limits. They'll disable us before we get there." Talia's expression had become resolute. "There's another way." Nolan recognized her determination. "Whatever you're thinking, it's too dangerous. The Kr-Shera have abilities beyond combat," she explained. "With sufficient concentration, I can project an energy field that will disrupt their targeting systems." "At what cost to you?" Nolan demanded, seeing the calculation in her eyes. "A temporary weakening. Nothing permanent." Before he could protest further, the ship rocked violently as the lead pursuer fired a warning shot across their bow. "Attention cargo vessel," a harsh voice transmitted over the open channel. "Power down and prepare to be boarded. We claim the Azurian female and her possessor under Fringe Ordnance 15A. Talia moved to the central area of the bridge. "Get us within range of all 3 vessels," she instructed. "I need them relatively clustered for this to work." Reluctantly, Nolan ordered the navigator to execute a tight turn that would bring them into the midst of their pursuers. The bounty hunters, interpreting the maneuver as surrender, adjusted their positions to surround the freighter. "Perfect," Talia whispered. She closed her eyes, her silver markings beginning to pulse with increasing intensity. The glow spread across her body until she appeared to be composed of pure energy rather than flesh. The collar around her throat sputtered and sparked, its circuitry overwhelmed by the power flowing through her. "Talia," Nolan called, alarmed by the transformation. Her eyes snapped open, no longer violet but brilliant white, pupilless and radiant. "Stay back," she warned, her voice resonating strangely. What happened next defied explanation. A pulse of energy emanated from Talia's body, expanding outward in concentric rings that passed through the ship's hull without damage. On the view screen, the bounty hunters' vessels began to drift, their systems visibly failing as the energy wave washed over them. The effort lasted seconds but seemed to stretch into eternity. When it ended, Talia collapsed. Nolan caught her before she hit the deck, cradling her unconscious form against his chest. Her skin had turned a pale, translucent blue, and her markings were almost invisible. Most shockingly, the collar that had encircled her throat now lay in pieces on the floor, its locking mechanism completely destroyed. "Get us to Alliance space," Nolan ordered the navigator, his voice tight with concern. "Maximum speed." The next hours were the longest of Nolan's life. Talia remained unconscious, her breathing shallow but steady. He monitored her vital signs, using the limited medical equipment from the ship's emergency kit to stabilize her condition. When Alliance patrol vessels finally intercepted them near the Callisto waypoint, Nolan insisted on immediate medical assistance. His Terran Defense Force credentials, though recently retired, still carried weight with the patrol commander. Alliance medics transferred Talia to the patrol vessel's medical bay, where advanced equipment could properly assess her condition. Nolan refused to leave her side, even during debriefing. "She saved us," he explained to the patrol commander. "Whatever she did disabled the bounty hunter's ships without harming the crews. They were alive but systems dark when we left them." 3 days passed before Talia regained consciousness. Nolan was dozing in a chair beside her medical bed when a gentle touch on his hand woke him. "Hello," she whispered, her violet eyes clear and focused once more. Her blue skin had regained most of its vibrant color, though her silver markings remained fainter than before. Relief washed over him. "Welcome back." Her fingers touched her throat, finding the collar gone. "It worked," she marveled. "You nearly killed yourself," Nolan admonished, though he couldn't keep the admiration from his voice. "The doctors say you literally channeled your bioelectric field through the collar's circuits." "A theoretical ability," she admitted with a weak smile. "I wasn't certain it would work." The Alliance patrol commander entered with news: Talia's application for refugee status had been expedited and approved. As one of the last K'Ashera, she qualified for special protection under Alliance xenocultural preservation laws. "What happens now?" Nolan asked as the commander departed. Talia's hand found his, their fingers intertwining naturally. "The Alliance has offered me a position in their xenobiology division. My knowledge of Azurian genetics could help develop new medical treatments." "Sounds promising." "They've also offered you reinstatement," she continued. "Special liaison to non-human refuges. Apparently, your handling of our situation impressed them." Nolan considered this. After 15 years of service, he'd been ready for retirement, for peace. But looking at Talia, he realized his mission had simply changed rather than ended. "Would we be working together?" he asked. Her smile answered before her words did. "They suggested we'd make an effective team. Intelligence indicates there are other K'Ashera hiding throughout the fringe worlds, afraid to seek asylum. Finding them, helping them reach safety." Nolan nodded slowly. "I could think of worse ways to spend the next few years." Outside the viewports of the Alliance vessel, Earth loomed large and blue, Nolan's home, soon to be Talia's as well. Yet as they gazed at each other, both understood that home was no longer defined by planets or stations. "When I was first brought to your room on Vantis," Talia said softly, "I thought I'd reached the end of my journey. Instead, it was just beginning." Nolan leaned forward, pressing his forehead gently against hers. The connection between them hummed with possibility, with futures neither could have imagined separately. "Together," he whispered, echoing their promise from days before. Talia's markings brightened in response, her smile radiant with hope. "Together," she agreed, sealing their bond with a kiss that tasted of freedom and new beginnings.